So good morning. Today we will discuss about fundamental rights. So fundamental rights are really fundamental for any person who lives in India or who is an Indian citizen. Even if people who are coming as tourists to India, for them, wherever you go, these are very important rights that you must know and understand. That is why this is called as an essential part of our constitution. Before going into fundamental rights, I would like to make you explain what is a right actually. A right is a social claim, you can say. I mean, a claim which is really sanctioned by an authority, and society is obligated, it's under obligation to protect these rights. Coming from rights, fundamental rights are a set of rights which are recognized by our constitution. So that is why these are known as the most important rights and constitutional rights. So what did I say? That anyone who lives in India, for them, you may be an IAS officer, you may be a doctor, an engineer, or just a simple citizen. For everyone who lives in India, these rights are very, very important to know. Because these rights are actually, they protect us from anything and everything when we live inside a territory, within a territory. So these fundamental rights are a set of rights. If you understand what is a right, these are a set of rights which are recognized by our Constitution of India, and these rights are protected by the highest judiciary, that is the apex court, or you can say the Supreme Court of India directly. If all other rights like your legal rights, social rights, personal rights, if these are violated, you can go to the court of law step by step. But in case of violation of a fundamental rights, you can directly go and appeal in the Supreme Court of India. That saves the time and money, and that makes the justice speed actually. So that is why the Constitution has recognized only a set of rights which are 6 in number actually. So there are 6 fundamental rights, and these fundamental rights are explained in part 3 of our Constitution from Article 13 to 32, or more precisely from Article 12 to 32 actually, but the rights start with Article 14. As I said, there are 6 kinds of fundamental rights. Earlier, before 1978, there were actually 7 fundamental rights. But through the 44th Amendment Act, one of the fundamental rights, which is right to property, is no more a fundamental right. So that has been abolished or deleted, you can say, from the list of the fundamental rights. So now let us know what are these 6 fundamental rights. The first one is right to equality. The second one is right to freedom. Right against exploitation. Right to freedom of religion. Cultural and educational rights. And the last one is right to constitutional remedies. The last but not the least, right to constitutional remedies. This is the most important right, we can say. So, talking about all these rights, right to equality starts with Article 14. Article 14 to Article 18 are right to equality. Right to freedom from Article 19 to Article 22. Right against exploitation are covered by Article 23 and 24, whereas right to freedom of religion covers Article 25, 26, 27, 28. Then Article 29 and Article 30 are cultural and educational rights. Here was Article 31, which is now deleted. So Article 32 covers right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 kinds of rights which are recognized by the Constitution of India. That means, as we know, Constitution is the highest law of the country. That is known as the fundamental law of the land. That Constitution has recognized these 6 fundamental rights as the most important rights of anyone who lives in India, anyone who comes to tour in India, or for all the Indian citizens. So let's first start with right to equality. What do you mean by equality? Equality in political science means equal opportunity. That means, as Lasky says, equality is creating of an atmosphere where men find opportunities to be their best selves. So if we consider this definition of Lasky, then we can say that right to equality gives us opportunities, different kinds of opportunities. So when we start with Article 14, this gives us legal equality. Article 14 has actually 2 phrases. Anyone shall not be deprived from the right to equal protection of law and equality before law. Equality before law and equal protection of law. So anywhere we see this legal equality, this term is being explained by these 2 things, equality before law and equal protection of law. Let me tell you also why right to equality is so important, because at any point of time, whoever lives within Indian territory, we may be Indian citizens, or if you can understand that other people like refugees, like people who have taken political asylum, like international students, like the tourists, anyone who comes to India and lives in India, they are entitled to these 2 kinds of rights, equality before law and equal protection of law, because this is very important for them also. If someone travels throughout India and he is not given this legal equality, then his life may be at danger, or his life may be facing threats. That is why legal equality is given to one and all, everyone, not only Indian citizens. It's a misperception actually that some people conceive that, some people understand that fundamental rights are meant only for our citizens. No, it's not that like that. There are certain kinds of fundamental rights which are also meant or which are also available to all these people who are living inside India. So legal equality ensures equality before law and equal protection of law through Article 14. But let me tell you that why I said that this article says that no one shall be deprived. All these fundamental rights are so particular in saying that no one shall be deprived. This means it's a negative sentence, but giving a lot of positive rights to us. Then Article 15 gives us equal opportunities. No one shall be deprived of equal opportunity in terms of public employment. What does it mean? Public employment. While public employment is there, then everyone on the basis of merit shall be given equal opportunity. Then the next article says that no one shall be deprived from any kind of social equality. We know that we are living in a complex society. What does that mean? That means our society has different kinds of discriminations. Discriminations on the basis of caste, creed, religion, sex and gender. So no one shall be discriminated against any such grounds while living in a society, because we know that caste is a very divisive force in our society, and when the constitution was being made or being written in the Constituent Assembly, then this point was specially being considered by the constitution makers, that there should be no discrimination on the basis of caste at least. So that is why it said that no one shall be deprived while living in a society. That means the access to public places. What is the first public place that we access? When we wake up, then when we come out of our house, the first public place that everyone wants to access or everyone needs to access is the public road. and no one shall be denied that right to use the public road, to use the water of the well, pond or anything like that, public places, access to public places, access to public institutions, access to public schools, public educational institutions or any higher education, things like that. Then we will go to very, very important Article 17. Article 17 says that in any form, in any kind of form or in any form, untouchability is strictly forbidden by the Constitution. Here the term came untouchability, touchability and untouchability. As I was referring to caste as a divisive force in our society, so we know that the man-made division of caste has resulted into calling some people as untouchable. That means we really hesitate to touch some people. If we belong to a higher caste, to a so-called higher caste, then we saw that some people are really, they are belonging to the lower caste and we belong to a higher caste. So in that case, people, or we belong to a lower caste, some people belong to a higher caste, then in that case, people discriminate against the so-called lower caste people. In that case, the Constitution has strictly forbidden any form, practice of any form, in any kind of form, we cannot say, we cannot call anyone untouchable on any grounds, we cannot discriminate anyone on the process of, or in social living or in public living, we cannot deny anyone any kind of right, saying him that he is an untouchable. Then Article 18, the last part of right to equality, that says that no titles can be conferred. Titles like during the English era, during the British era, there were titles for such examples. If we can take some examples like Rao Bahadur, like Jamindars, abolished, Jamindari is abolished now. So like these titles, these were also creating a kind of class system, that some people are higher than some people. So that is why the Constitution has clearly said that no one shall be conferred any kind of titles on the basis of only, except on the basis of merit and or military. That means we can very well know that on the basis of merit we are being awarded PhD. These are on the basis of PhD or DLED. These are on the basis of merit. Whereas the other part, if we consider military, like Ashok Chakra, like these things are the military distinctions which are honored, which are given to someone for his distinctive service to the state, to the nation. These can be given only, except these two things. No one shall be conferred a title which will create a discrimination or which will create a class division in the society. So for these reasons, anyone who can accept a title from the foreign country, they have to take the permission of the executive head of this state. So with this, we can say that right to equality comes to an end. Then we will start with the next article or the next fundamental right. Right to freedom. This is also very much important. When I ask what is freedom actually, even very senior people, they don't know what is the definition of freedom. Though everyone as human being, we need freedom. We know that freedom is such an essential thing while we live in a society, then freedom, but that has a very broad meaning actually. Just being free from the control of anyone cannot be said freedom for everyone. We may say that our country became free when it was out of control of, or when it made itself free from the control of another government. But having said that, personal freedom is something different. So freedom in its myriad meanings, the Constitution has really given us a picture what can be the, you can say what can be the, in its widest thoughts, what can be the meaning of freedom. The Article 19, the beginning article of right to freedom itself, it has said, or it has intended to give us 6 kinds of freedom, and this is very fundamental freedom. And when we say, let me again explain what is, if we understand what is freedom, or if we conceptualize what is freedom, then we have 2 aspects of freedom, positive freedom and negative freedom. You have freedom but that doesn't allow you to do anything that you want to do, because freedom also comes with certain limitations, certain restrictions. There are restrictions from the state where we live while enjoying the freedom, because the state brings us up, the state provides us different opportunities for our personality development, or you can say for our living. Anything and everything you imagine, the state provides us different opportunities. So for that, we have to also be under certain restrictions by which the state's law and order is not going to be affected. We have freedom to explore many things for our own development. That doesn't mean that the other one who lives along with us, our neighbor, maybe our friend who sits with us in a classroom, they don't have their freedom. If I will say that I have my freedom, so I will sit in my class like spreading my arms like that, then I must understand that the friend who sits besides me, she or he also has that kind of freedom. Then no one can sit comfortably inside a classroom. So freedom gives us certain kinds of the sense of being controlled from anyone's other ones or any external force, but right at the same time, it also gives us some limitations to be, or we are under the obligation of living under some restrictions. So the very first article of right to freedom, that gives us again 6 kinds of freedom. This is interesting to know that 6 kinds of freedom starts with freedom of speech and expression. While freedom of speech comes to be as the first and the most prime form of expression, but expression doesn't end with speech. There are different forms of expression. Someone who doesn't know how to speak, he can express or she can express through sign language. We know it well. So speaking, expressing through sign language, doing a documentary, expressing yourself through a poem, or expressing your ideas through a story, talking to someone, or you can give a speech, a debate, everything comes under right to expression. Indian Constitution allows you right to freedom of thought, speech and expression, but that too condition for the public health and morality. We have our speech, our right to speech and expression, but we can't see anything and everything. We can't just say that all the obscene things, we can't say it in public, because there are certain restrictions to public morality. So the second freedom which comes under the second kind, as I said, there are 6 kinds of freedom which are guaranteed through Article 19. The second kind of freedom which is guaranteed is right to freedom of assembling and without arms. Right to freedom of assembling. Or assembly you can say. Assembly means uniting together and without arms. What do we mean by without arms? Arms means weapons. We have the right, or we are allowed by our constitution to be assembled. That means we can pose a strike. As in the democracy, we have a right to criticize the government. We can have a meeting, we can have an organized meeting or a family gathering. We can be united together, but that should be without arms. That should be without any kind of weapons. So arms and ammunition, without arms and ammunition, we can do our units, we can do our get-togethers, we can assemble together, we can go to the public in a group, we can do that thing. So that is very important, because we don't have a right to be united with arms. That poses a threat to the nation's freedom. So that is where the limitation is there. Right to freedom of assembly without arms. The third kind of freedom that comes is very interesting. That is right to travel anywhere. Travel anywhere within the territory of India. We may belong to Odisha, we may belong to West Bengal, we may live in any part of the country, but as Indian citizens, we have a right to travel within the territory of India. The next form of freedom comes with right to reside and settle. Reside is the verb. The noun form is residence. The residential certificate that students get or students need for different kinds of provisions or for different kinds of benefits that they claim. So they know that residential certificate comes from that, right to reside and settle. Reside means staying somewhere for a non-permanent basis, and settle means staying somewhere, buying a plot, having a house of your own, or staying somewhere permanently. You may belong to Odisha, but if you want, then you can have your own house in Mumbai, you can buy a house in Delhi, and you can settle there forever. The Constitution has allowed us to do so. So we can reside, we can go on transfer basis, we can choose to live somewhere else if that is comfortable for us, and we can also buy a home and settle anywhere in the territory of India. Then right to form associations and unions. That is also another right that we can form, like a cultural association, like a cultural club, or a political union. We can join a union, we can add to the association, and or we can form our own associations, political, social, any kind of, like athletic clubs, like cultural clubs, like spiritual clubs. We can all do that. We have the right. The last one is right to do any kind of profession, trade or commerce. That means we also have the right to choose our own profession. We have seen that some people professionally they worship the god, or they are doing the worshipping like in Ganesh Puja or in Saraswati Puja, or some people are there who are collecting or who are earning their livelihood by doing a work in the church or even in a masjid. So people are there who can also opt for these kind of professions. The Constitution has given us full guarantee or has given us full freedom to do that also. We can go for a government service, we can join a private sector, or we can do any business. For that also, there is no restrictions from the on the behalf of the Constitution. So these are the different kinds of freedom that an Indian citizen, but let me tell you that these right to freedom is given to or is guaranteed to only Indian citizens. Fundamental rights are varied in their nature. Some rights are given to anyone who lives in India, and some kinds of fundamental rights are there which are given or which are guaranteed only to Indian citizens. Right to freedom is one of such kinds of right which is only guaranteed to Indian citizens only. And that is why this right to freedom can be also withdrawn by the government at the time of conflict. If there is a conflicting time, like times of riot or before the elections, you can say some of these rights may be withdrawn by the state. That is to maintain law and order. That is to maintain a peaceful atmosphere. The government or the state may withdraw some of the right to freedom. So the next article, Article 20, which is the second article of right to freedom, that is, you can say, a negative right of the citizens. Why do I say that that is a negative kind of right? Because it is meant to restrict police action. That means no one can be, no one who has violated a law shall be punished. No, but no one shall be punished without violating a law of this land. Let me explain this. When someone is stealing something, then he breaks a law. When someone is doing an accident, then he breaks an automobile law. So that is the violation of a law. Without doing that, no one shall be convicted or no one shall be punished in this country. And this Article 19 also has another part, another clause which says that no one can be arrested without being given the cause of his arrest. No one, when someone is going to be arrested, then the police must produce the cause of his arrest. As we know, as we often have heard about a term that is warrant. So the warrant is being circulated. That says that you are going to be arrested because you have done blah, blah, blah. So when someone has really violated a law, then only he can be arrested. And so this is like a right of the citizens against the police power of detention. So the police can't detain anyone and everyone. The police can't just lift anyone and everyone from his or her house and put him behind the bars. No, that to restrict this kind of acts of the police, that is why this right is there. Then let us move on to right to Article 21. This Article 21, a film has also been made on Article 21. Article 21, everyone should know that this is actually the most important fundamental rights. Without this, we don't have any existence in this country or in this world even, you can say. Why? Because right to this Article 21 says no one shall be deprived of his right to life. Imagine how important is this right to life and personal liberty. So when we say right to life, that means we have a right, a fundamental right, of course, which is guaranteed by the Constitution and protected by the Supreme Court, that we can lead our life in any way. We can live our life, we can enjoy our life. Also, this article also gives us protection against doing something, or suppose a dacoit is attacking on you. Then if you kill him even, and if you can prove that you have killed the dacoit or you have killed that antisocial for defending your life, then you are right. You are not going to be punished. The law cannot take in any course of action against you if you have done even something which looks like an illegal act, but really it's not an illegal act, because you have done it in order to protect your own life. So that is right to life. And let me tell you here that Indian Constitution gives us the right to live our life, not the right to end our life. There is a very thin line of distinction between right to life and right to end our life. If we commit suicide, you must have heard that if someone commits suicide, then the police arrives. So that is why, to divert the police, some people take that the body and they just take it, finish the last rites as soon as possible, just to avert the police action. Because committing suicide is a crime under Indian law. So Indian law considers that everyone has a right to live their life how happily or how peacefully they may choose to, but they can never take their own life. That is, and even if someone is terminally ill, euthanasia is not actually allowed in our country. You must have heard this term, euthanasia. Euthanasia means someone choosing death over life. So there have been many cases pending in Supreme Court of India right now also. At any point of time, you can see that there are lots and lots of number of cases pending in Supreme Court of India for euthanasia. To make euthanasia a valid point, or to accept euthanasia as a legal right, there have been people making queue in Supreme Court of India. But Indian laws till now, when we discuss about this, has not approved euthanasia. Only in some very special cases, if someone is in coma for long years, if there is no chance of coming back to life, then only euthanasia may be applied there. But euthanasia in many of the modern countries, in many of the Western countries particularly, where euthanasia is allowed, but Indian law only guarantees our right to life. The next part is right to personal liberty. Personal liberty is again self-explanatory. Liberty is a very broad term, and personal liberty, under personal liberty comes so many kinds of our liberty. It starts from whether we shall get married or not, to whom we should get married, in which way I will get married, whether I will marry with much pomps or I will marry just simply, I will just register, whether I will be mother or not, whether I shall be a mother of 2 children or 1 child. These all things are in my hand. I have complete freedom to my personal liberty. Where should I buy a land? Where should I undergo a contract? Where should I make a personal contract? Where should I go to the place of worship or not? Should I do namaz or not? Should I visit my temple or not? All these things are coming under right to personal liberty. And Article 21A is also very important because it gives us right to education. Article 21A, right to education. In 21st century, when I ask that what are the basic conditions, or if I ask you what are the basic needs of a human being, then you may say that the basic needs of human being consist of our clothes, shelter or home. No, that is not actually. In today's time, when we define a human being, or when we discuss about the needs of a human being, basic needs, then we must know that right to education and right to health care. Health care and education, these two have become very basic needs of human being because we are living in a modern time. Even a dog, if you have a pet dog, you can give him a house, you can give him food, you can give him enough clothes when it's cold, but he's not a human being. So to live a real life of a human being, not just animalistic existence. Right to 21A clearly mentions this word, that to avoid an animalistic existence, we must have the right to education. And right to education says that children between 6 to 14 years of age shall be provided free and compulsory primary education. Both these two things, free, the state will provide free education, and then compulsory. No child should be spared from the circle of education. Anyone you find, you can take him and you can put him in a school, in a government school. So the state provides right to education, the state protects the right to education. That's why in our state-run schools, these days we are finding that school children are getting free food, they are getting free dress, school dress, free books are being supplied, and so many freebies are supplied by the government because right to education has become a very important right. Then Article 22 says that no one shall be detained in police custody without being presented before the nearest magistrate. What does it mean? If someone has done you can say has committed a crime, then he or she has to be arrested if they have fled away from the place where someone has committed a crime and then he has left that place and gone to escape from the police eye, or from the eyes of the police or eyes of the law. Then what will be done? He will be faced, or if he will be cut from a very different place, then he will be taken to that place where the place of committing the crime. So from there, you can count within 24 hours, he has to be presented before the nearest magistrate. He just cannot be in the police custody for unlimited time. So this has been given again to give the citizens the right to be presented, or the right to defend themselves. And everyone and anyone can consult an advocate of his own choice. So with this, Article 22 comes to an end and right to freedom comes to an end. Okay. So as with Article 22, we will wind up this class. We come to an end of right to freedom. So for the next rights in the next class. Thank you very much.